Hey, this is Seagrove, and today I'm doing a video for 5 top picks on Memphis. I just got a lot of people to share their lists. Some people elaborated, some didn't. But anyways, my list is Gardevoir, Decidueye Zoroark, Lycanroc Zoroark, Golisopod Zoroark, and Solgaleo.
Coming into Memphis, if I had to choose 5 decks with no order for priority, I'd say the first one I'll definitely name is Gardevoir. I'll definitely say Gardevoir. Main reason why it's it's pretty broken. Like Max Potion is really good. Like you can deny from opponent taking prizes. It has 230 HP, which is pretty difficult to knock out. A lot of you guys know the attack is really strong with the ability. So pretty much generally, getting 6 or 7 energy, including Choice Band on board for the knockout to take 2 prizes is always really strong. Overall, with the addition of Glade, makes it even better because on Zorak is a really big thing. So having like slight edge over Zorak for the fighting weakness and the ability with what is it called, premonition. It has really good synergy overall. Another one I'll mention is Zorak Golisopod. People, you guys know Zorak is like really strong right now with the trade ability. It allows you to set up a lot better. So you have the options to get Puzzle of Time better consistently without having to dump too much cards because of trade. You get to go through a lot of cards. Like if you play Sycamore and if you have like several trade card, available, you're drawing more than 7 cards every turn, which is really absurd. Your opponent is kind of like forced to like one shot because there's like high chance of like your opponent using Acerola to prevent from that 2-shot gaming. So you have like a really good advantage over it. And overall, it has like a lot of other techs like Enhanced Hammer, Tapu Koko to do the spreading, even Mewtwo to do some like price trade favor stuff. So I think the deck itself is really strong, but it really performs even better when when it's like under the right player or like a really good player who knows how to do like a lot of managing stuff. Another one I would say is once again Zorak Lycanroc. One of the thing is Zorak, once again, same gimmick, same engine, really good. It's fighting type, so you can use against your opponent's Zorak, hitting for weakness. And at the same time, Lycanroc's ability allows you to drag things up. So basically, it gives you that little edge in the mirror match where you can try to drag out their Wimpod and things like that and disrupt your opponent. Since Zorak only needs 1 DCE to apply like 100 something pressure, it's really easy. Another one that I'll mention is most likely I would say Greninja. It's not like my personal top pick, but I would say it's probably one of the decks that I expect to see going into Memphis. It has its moment where you can brick and lose as well, but it's also best out of 3, so you have a second chance, which is nice. Overall, if you're not prepared to like whether you tech against it or you don't expect it, it performs really well. The fact that most of the attackers are non-GXs, it's also really annoying to deal with it. And it's like one of those like really strong comeback decks with Shadow Stitching and Giant Water Shaking is really annoying. So that's one of the reasons why I will mention Greninja. Last but not least, this is my personal pick. I would say it's kind of basically ignoring the stats. My personal pick would be probably, I'll say, Ho-Oh Salazzle. Once you got the turn 1 Kiawe with Ho-Oh, basically with a choice man, you're swinging for 210. So most EXs really, they get one-shotted. So you can pretty much put it in a spot where you can one-shot their Zorak, and they most likely won't have anything that can one-shot you back. And the following turn, you can just Guzman and one-shot back like another GX or something. And then eventually it comes down to Salazzle for closing the game. Once you take 4 prizes, you just need to hit a choice band for Salazzle, or even just go for like the 5th prize, so you can guarantee close it with Salazzle. They usually don't have, by the time you hit that point, they usually don't have much of an answer. You just put them in a weird spot where like, okay, you can kill my Ho-Oh, but if you kill my Ho-Oh, I'll revenge KO with Salazzle. You can try to find a way to knock out my Salazzle, but my Ho-Oh will get you back.
All right, Kirk, Duke's Next Bay here with the Super Broadcast, here to tell you top 5 decks I think for Memphis. Number 1, Broken Vor. I'm sure everybody already said that. 2, Lycanroc Zoroark GX. I think it's in a beautiful spot. It's very aggressive, goes early. Rattle through the next 3. Gliscopod Zoroark, great choice. Metagross, I think, can spike this tournament if it shows up with a good setup. And lastly, where my heart lies, we'll go with the Pumpkin Bomb, Pumpkin Spice Latte, Gourgeist. That's more of a Hail Mary pick, but I hope it pans out. You're all beautiful. Congratulations on 1,000 subscribers, my friend.
Well, my top 5 would, one of them being Zoroark Lycanroc. That's pretty good because it can take prizes pretty easily. You can also be able to come back with Lycanroc GX, which is nice. Be able to take a one-hit KO on anything 250 or even 280 if that was a real thing. But I think the Decidueye Zoroark is also pretty strong. I'm not sure if it's the best pick, just because I think the deck takes a lot of skill, and I feel like many people may misplay with it. But I think in the hands of some of the more skilled players, it's definitely probably one of the better decks to play. I think Gardevoir, it's up there, but I think it's probably lower in the top 5, just because most people already know how to play against it, and with the Buzzwole decks and with the Decidueye Zoroark being popular, I think it kind of knocked it down a little bit. Zoroark Gliscopod is up there as well, but I'd probably put it in the same category as Gardevoir. And I do think Bulu, I wouldn't say maybe it's the best pick, but it's something that's definitely strong coming in to the regional. And then I think fighting variants in general are going to be good. There's going to be different variations that I think are going to see some play. So those would be my picks for the regional.
All right, so my top 5 is at number 5. I got Gliscopod Zoroark. Now, the reason I don't really like playing these meta decks that are really looking out, like everyone's looking out for, trying to counter. So I still think Gliscopod Zoroark is a really consistent deck. Can't go wrong. Nice consistent damage output, all that good stuff. Also, the healing is really nice and standard. And then in number 4, I have Silvally Metal. One of kind of my pet decks that I've been liking in standard. I've been trying Silvally with a bunch of different stuff, psychic types, all that stuff. But metal types is really good. The Registeel, really good against Gardevoir, knocking out Ralts, Vulpix, and all that stuff. While also having that Silvally to charge things up. So in the meta, I'm not sure it can handle Gliscopod Zoroark, which is, I think, going to be a pretty decently popular deck. So that's the only reason holding me back from putting it higher. Number 3, I'm going to go with Gardevoir GX, Broken Vor, whatever you want to call it, just because you really can't go wrong with Gardevoir right now. Its max potions are insane in the deck, blah, 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 massive damage. So that's number 3. Once again, I don't really love playing meta decks, but it's just way too good not to play right now, in my opinion. Number 2, now coming to my top 2 favorites, I got Buzzwole Zoroark. Not the one with the max potions or the all that stuff, but just the DCE version with Zoroark, and also Tapu Koko and Espeon, because a lot of times you can spread damage with Buzzwole, Koko, and then devolve a lot of stuff, which is really nice against like Gardevoir. And I think Zoroark, if you're not playing Zoroark, you don't have that extra like trade ability, trade is just so good right now in every deck. And I just like attacking with Zoroark too. A solid like 120 is always nice for just a DCE. And as I said, it also gains you access to Tapu Koko with the DCE, which is always really nice. Then number 1, kind of my favorite deck right now, Decidueye Zoroark, and I know you've been loving that deck too. Once again, it has the spread damage with Decidueye and the devolutions and all that like consistent kind of spread damage output. Can handle pretty much every deck. You have an out to win against pretty much every deck. Against Evolution deck, you can always spread, and even against Volcanion, you have Zoroark GX, and you could also put a standard Zoroark if you want. If they have a full bench of 5, choice band that's 190, knocks out Tornadors and stuff. So I think it has a pretty solid chance if you know what you're doing with the deck. I think you go really, really far with that deck.
So my top 5 picks for Memphis. The first one's broken deck. Gardevoir with like 4 max potion. I just think it's the best. I think it's like also miles above everything else. And then I think, what's next? Probably Zoroark, Lycanroc, which is maybe not on people's radars. And then I'd go Golisopod, Zoroark. I like that a lot. Let's see, 4th, I'd have to choose Greninja. And then 5th, I guess probably Buzzwole, Lycanroc, but I don't like that deck that much. So that's my top 5. Sorry Volcanian's not on there, but I'd never play that.
My top 5 picks for the Memphis Regionals in order are probably Zoroark, Lycanroc, just super consistent. Greninja, super powerful, but not quite as consistent. Zoroark, Decidueye, not as consistent as Zoroark, Lycanroc, but still pretty consistent and pretty good, honestly. Then Tapu Bulu, Vikavolt. I've just always liked Bulu's format, so that. And I guess number 5 on the list will be Guardy. I probably won't play it though because it just doesn't draw well for me.
Hey guys, my name is Chip. I'm going to be talking about my top 5 deck choices for the Memphis Regionals this coming weekend. These aren't really in any specific order, but these are 5 decks I think are really strong and could be good plays. First off, I got to talk about the 2 decks that I wrote my recent article on, and that is Metagross, Sigaleo, and Buzzwole, Lycanroc. I think these are both really good options. Metagross, Sigaleo, I think if it sets up, is one of the most powerful decks in the format, but it's also extremely fragile and it can be inconsistent due to the multiple stage 2 lines, but I think like if it sets up, it's really powerful. And then I like Buzzwole, Lycanroc a lot because of the basic attackers, just the sheer consistency of the deck. That's why I like it a lot. I played it for 2 League Cups this weekend. And so I think it's a really solid choice as well. Keeping going down the list, similar to Buzzwole, Lycanroc, I really like Zoroark, Lycanroc. I think it's a good option as well. I haven't spent as much time with it personally, but I think the deck is strong in general. And I also got to say Gardevoir. I think Gardevoir is probably one of the most inconsistent decks, but it's also easily the most powerful deck. So that combination is kind of like a trade-off. Which do you go with? So I think Gardevoir could definitely be a strong play. I like the Sylveon versions, but I think if I had to pick one, I'd play kind of like a hybrid of the broken Gardevoir and then just like a more consistent Gardevoir list. Probably with just like 1 or 2 max potions, not maxing out to the full 4, but I think that the deck in general is really strong. And then the last deck is Greninja. I think Greninja's really in a good spot right now. A lot of really ability-reliant decks. Like everything that plays Zoroark just relies so heavily on abilities. People are cutting down on draw supporters, so they're really susceptible to N plus Shadow Stitching. So I like Greninja a lot for that fact. It is, you know, like I said, similar to like all these other evolution decks, it can be very, very inconsistent. But if you can make it consistent, I think that it could be a really good call for this weekend. And yeah.
The top decks that I have going into Memphis Regionals, I've got to give it to my play would be Lycanroc, Zoroark. Other decks, obviously Gardevoir, the broken Vor as it's been called. Zoroark, Golisopod, and I think we're gonna see some Drampagarp this weekend. I really do.
Hello everybody, my name is Jake Dudzik and I'll be attending Memphis Regionals this weekend. And here are my top 5 picks in no particular order. Gardevoir, Decidueye Zoroark, Buzzwole, Solgaleo, and Zoroark Lycanroc.
Okay, cool. So my top 5 decks for Memphis are Gardevoir, not the broken Guardy, whatever version, and not the Sylveon version. I like playing the 2/2 Octillery, 2 Mallow, and 4 Puzzle of Time version with 3 Bridget and 4 Candy. I think it sets up faster and hits harder than any other version of Gardevoir. I think it's best equipped to handle the meta. My number 2 deck after that would be Decidueye Zoroark, as long as you can make it consistent. Personally, I would put 3 Bridget in it and 4 Candy to go with all the other stuff to aid its evolution. But that's just me. I know that's not the most popular build for it. My number 3 deck would be Tapu Bulu Vikavolt. I really like it. A friend of mine named Eddie played it against me and beat me in Top Cut, and I might be biased because it beat me, but I think it's a pretty strong deck. Number 4, obviously, I mean, Golisopod Zoroark's really strong. I would also kind of put Tapu Buzzwole variants in at number 4, and then I would just kind of tie them, I guess. And then at number 5, I would say some sort of yet to be determined Garbo Toxin deck. I think every deck plays abilities right now, and I think that shutting off abilities could be an advantage that is kind of being underutilized at the moment. So yeah, that would be my top 5. I've been too busy with school to develop the Garbo Toxin idea, but I definitely think that it's worth looking at right now. So with 2 days before the tournament, good luck developing that Garbo Toxin idea. But that's my top 5 or really 6 ideas.
All right, so my top 5 for Memphis this weekend, I got 2 honorable mentions. Volcanic Greninja, expect those. They're on my radar as well. Number 5, Buzzwole Lycanroc. I think it's a super solid deck. Probably one of the top 3 consistent decks in the format right now. Number 4, Zoroark Fighting. Michael Vick's backyard is what I like to call it. As a super solid deck, very underrated right now. It's getting a lot of fitness right now. I think it's going to be solid play. Coming to number 3, Decidueye Zoroark. I love the deck. I love how it works. I've always been a fan of Decidueye, and I think it's going to be a great call. Number 2, for me, is Broken Vor. A lot of people are saying it's number 1, but I think Broken Vor or Gardevoir in general is going to be the number 2 play. Some people are thinking Sylveon, some people are thinking not. So, but be ready for it. And then top pick is Zoroark Golisopod, Tor dot deck.
Hey guys, my top 5 decks for the Memphis Regional. Number 1, by far, Broken Vor, aka Gardevoir, with 4 Max Potion. 100% what I would play. I think it's the best deck by a really, really large margin. So my other 4 decks are both what I think could be meta plays / I think are also decent decks. So number 2 would be Metagross Solgaleo, pretty much because it's the only deck that really beats Gardevoir. Number 3 would be Decidueye Zoroark. I think that's a pretty good deck. Number 4 would be Gourgeist, also fun deck, beats Gardevoir. And number 5 would be Lycanroc Zoroark, solid deck, good matchups across the board.
So for my 5 picks for Memphis, number 5, I'm going to say Tapu Bulu GX Vikavolt. I know it's a deck that gets like a lot of flack in the community, but honestly, I think it's solid just because with Tapu Koko promo and or Professor Kukui and Choice Band, you can take 1-hit knockouts on Gardevoir. You also hit Lycanroc for weakness, which is becoming kind of popular. So I think it's a better deck than a lot of the community gives it credit for. Number 4, I'm actually going to kind of lump 2 different decks together. I'm going to say Lycanroc Zoroark and Lycanroc Buzzwole. Lycanroc right now is, I think, kind of an underrated card. It hits Zoroark for weakness, which I think is one reason it's kind of popping up lately. Zoroark, no explanation needed, really good. Buzzwole GX also really good as well because you can put on early pressure and knock out baby Zoruas. I'm probably more favoring the Zoroark version, but I will say this, it's a little susceptible to Espeon EX since all of your attackers are 60 hit point basics, just stage 1. So, but I still think I favor that version a little bit more. Number 3, I'm actually going to say Drampa Garbiter. It's a deck that's kind of fallen off the face of the earth lately, and I think that's the best time to play a deck like that. And it still, I think, has a great chance against most of the decks in the format with Potown, with Espeon EX, with Buzzwole GX. I think that's actually a really good tech you could play in this format since you play Rainbow Energy. So I think it's a deck that more people honestly should be playing, and it's I think weirdly to say a sleeper for this event. Number 2, I'm going to say Decidueye Zoroark. It's definitely been a deck that's been popping up a lot lately, and it's actually one of my favorite decks right now. The only reason it's number 2 is because I am kind of a slower player, and I'm really bad at judging when to scoop. And if you are like that, it's a terrible deck to play at a major event, I think. So that's why it's my number 2 pick. And obviously the number 1 pick is Gardevoir GX. Specifically the Broken Vor version of the deck. Max potions are stupid good. Every major tournament, Gardevoir has a target on its head, and I always am thinking to myself, okay, this is going to be the tournament. People finally figure out how to knock this thing off its throne. And I finally just came to the realization the deck is just good until the new Solgaleo and Crazy Metal support comes out. This deck is not going anywhere. It's, I think, definitely the best deck in format. There's definitely a bunch of decks that have a good chance against it. I think Decidueye does have a good chance against it, like I mentioned. And even Drampa Garb, like I just mentioned, I think can beat Gardevoir. So it definitely can lose, but I still think it's just overall the best deck in the format. You get to stack your deck. You get to attach extra energies per turn. You just get to do so many like crazy things with Gardevoir GX. It's just such a good card. So that's why it's going to be my number one pick for Memphis.
All right. Hey guys, I'm Rahul, and I guess my top 5 for this weekend are from 5, I would put Greninja. I would put 4, I'd put Guardy because it's still the best deck. 3, I'd put Vikabulu. I know it's great. It's a great meme, but I'm considering it purely because it can beat Guardy, Golisopod, and hit numbers if you set up. Granted, it doesn't set up very much. That's why it's 3. Number 2 is Decidueye Zoroark because it lets me make plays, and it's just a good deck, I think, overall, and has good matchups across the board. And then number 1 is Lycanroc Zoroark because I have really fallen in love with the deck and the amount of plays I can make. And I added a multi-switch over the weekend, and it's been really hype. So I really want to play that card. And if I get on the official stream, I'll really juice somebody with it. So.
Hey guys, what's up? This is Jared from the Super Oddcast, giving my top 5 decks for Memphis. My number 1 consideration is Broken Vor because it's really good and really consistent, and it beats a lot of things. My number 2 is the Dog Boys, the Lycanroc Zoroark. Is really good in best of 3 and can take some quick knockouts. Really just like dismantle your opponent's setup. For my number 3, I'd say Decidueye Zoroark. It has a really good hand against a lot of the field if you can play it correctly. Number 4, I will say Greninja, just because I have played it for a hot minute, and although I definitely don't want to play it for this tournament, it's always a cute deck to bring. And I'll say for number 5 for the sleeper pick, I'll say Sylveon Garbodor, because it's super fun to deck out some people and take away all their energy, at least the Zoroark variants.
I think the 5 decks for Memphis are probably obviously Gardevoir, Zoroark, Golisopod, some sort of Buzzwole variant, either Lycanroc or Garbodor, Zoroark, Decidueye. I guess if I had to put it down to it, I would separate the Buzzwole variants as their own 2 variants. So Buzzwole, Lycanroc, and Buzzwole, Garbodor.
The 5 decks that I think are best for Memphis, well, in this household, we're playing Guardy or Zoroark like Hanorok. I have a pretty lit Buzzwole list that I'm considering, and then Greninja and Volcanion round it out.
So my top 5 decks are, my top 3 are Decidueye Zoroark is my number 1, my number 2 is Lycanroc Zoroark, and my 3rd is Golisopod Zoroark. Because Zoroark GX is a really consistent card. But outside of that, I think that Volcanion and Vikavolt Bulu have the potential to be really good, but I could not make them work myself.
And that's it. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this was beneficial. It's actually a lot of work. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and please subscribe if you haven't already for more content like this.